Every haunting has a beginning and an end. But in this place, one becomes the other. Step closer. The lantern's glow will guide you. What you are about to hear are true stories of hauntings all over the world. Welcome to Help, I'm Haunted. I'm going to tell you the story about the doll. We've heard enough of EPPs. I'm going to tell you a story about a doll, and then I'm going to go, because the storm is starting to hello. I guess I'm lucky I haven't called in for my reading yet. I ordered 3 questions. Honey, I sent it to you yesterday. I sent my darling, I sent it to you yesterday. You better check you need to check your spam folder, because it was either yesterday or the day before I sent it to you. So my dear groovy Cheryl. So there you go. So you need to check and write back to me if you haven't gotten it, and I'll resend it to you again, because I did send it to you. I got yours. Yeah. I love you back. Okay, I'm going to tell you about a doll. And if you hear laughing, my son is actually playing. And my son has promised that he will come and stay. He does not want to be on camera. I don't blame him. And did you want to jump down or something? Or what is this bucking bronco stuff that we're doing? Okay. He's laughing, he's working, but he promises he will come and do, what is that guy? Walken, Christopher Walken. You need more cowbell. Okay. So don't be spooked if you hear laughing in the background. It's not, I'm ready to get my Halloween decorations out. All right, my darlings, I'm going to tell you about the story about the doll baby and little Zelda. And this is why I don't do dolls. We were the typical American family. My mother got divorced from my bio dad when I was a little chicken. And this man, who always loved my mother, come rain or come shine, proposed to my mom and adopted my sister and myself. I think I was a year old when that happened. Oh, hold on. Miss Behaven's daughter turned 18 on Friday. We'll have to sing. Let me know her name. We'll sing to her in a minute. So we lived, Dad worked for a little place called General Motors. And I call him Dad because he was the only dad that I knew. And so my grandparents, my grandmother, the one that I always talk about, my grandpa, whose birthday was on the 2nd, 2 days ago, happy birthday, Gramp, they would always go on these big trips. I mean, they would go on hunting trips out to Wyoming, and they would go, here and there. Now, we lived in a little house, typical American family, little white house with a little white picket fence. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, basement, kitchen, and my mother felt like she just had won the lottery, and we were very happy there. So my grandparents went off on this little vacay. They came back. You're welcome. They came back, and they had presents for us. Now, it wasn't Little House on the Prairie, but it was a little joint. And I look at it now and I think, how could we even have survived in that place? It was little. So my grandparents would always come back and get my sister and I gifts. Well, this time they came back and they had these little bride dolls, bride as in wedding bride dolls. Now, I really didn't know that much about, that sort of thing. I mean, I think I was 3, maybe 4. Chloe. Okay, well, time out. We're going to sing to Chloe now. Get ready, everybody. Here we go, misbehaving Chloe. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Chloe. Happy birthday to you and many more. Yay, Chloe. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Young lady. Wow. Wow. I remember when I was 18 in the 1600s. So we lived there. My grandparents brought back these dolls. Now, my dad built these shelves. They were wall shelves that would hang on the walls. My sister and I shared a bedroom. And we had twin beds in the bedroom. And we had our wall shelf, like here was our bed, head of the bed up here, the foot of the bed down here. And the wall shelf was hanging on the wall. So when we went to bed at night, we could look at our shelves. So I had never seen, oh, that's good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yes, I'm so super famous. Whoa, yeah. Woo. Okay, well, I'll take that, though. Thank you, my darling. So they brought these, and my sister, the dolls were like beautiful. And they never, I mean, if you moved them, their eyes would blink and, whatever, you could move their arms or whatever. But, this was in the 60s. And I think I was like 3, 4, maybe 4. I think I was 3. Enough that I could remember. So every night I would go to bed because I had never seen anything like that before. Mom put all our toys that we couldn't play with, the ones that we had to keep for whatever reason we had to keep them because we just never knew. Because, like we got Disney watches that one year and, I got Cinderella. My sister got Snow White. We weren't allowed to wear them. We could only put them on the shelf. Okay. So, and now I don't know where mine is. So that made a lot of sense. So I would go to bed every night and I would look at her and I just would say, and sometimes in my mind, sometimes I would look at her and I would say, you're so beautiful. I hope I look like you one day when I get married. I mean, she had this like roll set, right? She had that roll set going and little pearls. She had a little pearl wristlet on, a little pearl necklace. Oh, she was, and her little pearl dangly earrings, a little veil. She was a very pretty little thing. Little lipstick. Hello. Can't go out of the house without lipstick. And she had little, high heels on. She was just adorable. I can't even remember what my sister's doll looked like. So I would sit there every night, lay there every night and just look at her and say, you're just so beautiful. You're so gorgeous. I hope I look like you one day. I would just go through this and then eventually just falling asleep. Now, our house, I'm going to set up the center stage, was in this little, wasn't really like a little, it was in a neighborhood, but it wasn't, our neighbors were not close. Okay, it was not close. It was, don't leave me, Mitchell. Don't leave me, darling. They weren't close, but we had neighbors close enough that if we ever needed anything, whatever. Now, my grandparents always lived like within a 5-mile radius, never anything more. Pardon me. One of these days, I'll stop itching my nose. Maybe I'll shave my baby. Pardon me, I made noise. I'm so sorry. Thank you. So, my dad would go to work at General Motors. He would leave at like 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. And so this had to happen between 2 and 3 a.m. I think that's what my mom said. So this one night, I'm laying there. You're so beautiful. You're so, and I'm not kidding. I swear to God. And there are times I choke up when I'm even saying this. That doll turned. She literally turned and looked down at me and winked. I'm going to tell you, there was one little girl who never knew fear. I never knew fear. That was the moment that I knew fear. You want to talk about a B-movie scream? No kidding. A B-movie, you know those screams, those shrill screams? Baby darlings, I came up out of that bed. I mean, it was just, I could not. I was shaking crazily. And my sister jumps up and she's like, Zell, what's wrong? Zell, I couldn't speak. I was in shock. My mother, I'm not kidding. There was fire on the carpet. No, not really. I'm just saying she got there so fast that she just burned away on the carpet to come and get me. And I grabbed onto her. And I mean, you could not get my fist. I was like grabbing onto her. My dad walks in there and, typical dad, what the hell's going on? What, it was like, oh my God. So anyway, hello. Oh, this is the good part's coming. Hang tight. So I'm in the living room. Mom turns the lights on. Dad turns on. Kathy, I'm sorry. Hello, I just mentioned my sister. We all sat in the living room. And I could not stop screaming. So what does my mother do? She calls my grandparents because she knows the grandparents, hello. She tells them, you could hear me screaming in the background. My mom could not even hang up the phone. My grandparents were like, ah. My grandmother shows up with curlers in her hair, scarf around her head. Grandpa, they come running in the house. I'm calm enough. I grab on to my grandpa and I tell him what's going on. Well, there goes the men. Grandpa and Dad go to the bedroom. I would not even walk in there with that doll in there. They came out. My grandpa had it like he was carrying the Hope Diamond. He came out with, he came out like this, like, something like he was going to be on a TV documentary. And he came out holding this doll. My dad takes this, I don't know, garbage can or garbage bag rather. And I had to watch this ceremoniously. Puts this garbage can, I'm sorry, puts this, oh, hold on just a minute. Give me a break. Hello. Okay. I'm live now. Oh, I just wrote to a man that I'm loving. And I meant to write I'm live and put love. That'll be an explanation in a minute or two. Okay. So anyway, So I watched this ceremony going on, and we had the garbage cans out by the end of the road. So I had to watch them walk out. My dad lift up the lid to the garbage can and put this doll on the top. Now, mind you, it's 3-4 o'clock in the morning. The neighborhood is asleep, all except for our little house. So, they're looking in the house, looking at me, like this, looking up above this sofa, looking out the window, and they slam Dad slams on these metal garbage cans. Hello, you remember those? Slamming down. Well, thank you, Sam. She got a drink, got a little snack, and she's back for more. So everything calms down. Do not do that on me. Everything calms down. My grandma says, let the girls come over to our house for a couple of days until things get calmed down. So Mom goes in, and of course we thought it was a big deal to drive in the car at 4 o'clock in the morning with our pajamas on. Like we were, that was a big deal. And this was during a time where you didn't wear your seatbelts. So my sister sat between my grandma and grandpa, and I was sitting on grandma's lap. Hello, I'd like to see that now. She was holding on. Everybody was just like, I was really in shock. So it's early enough that my grandfather had to, and he actually worked in Mansfield, Ohio, at the Mansfield Tire. And they manufactured tires like Goodyear. So he had to get ready for work. So my grandmother decides, as they say in the South, that she's going to womp up this huge, great big breakfast to feed Grandpa and us, because she knew that we would have to go back to bed because, chickens up that late, you're going to have to get some rest. They lived in a weird kind of haunted house where you could hear a woman in the basement walking in high heels. So it's like I went from one situation to another. So we eat our breakfast. We're sitting there. I just didn't know if I could talk or not. Everybody was trying to do their best to keep me distracted and not thinking about it. All this, a woman, my relatives have last names Mansfield. Oh, nice, Cheryl. So we ate our breakfast. We went to bed. We get up, next day it was okay, whatever. We go back home, and my mother and my dad were they were like, hello. My dad thought I was going Looney Tunes and wanted to take me to the hospital to get checked out, as in, hello. When my grandparents heard that, my grandpa said, absolutely not. There's something else there, and we've noticed it for a long time. And this will probably be the first of many things that she sees and experiences. Well, my dad, being the son of a Methodist minister, did not believe any of this. In later years, we lived in that haunted farm that I told you about. And there you go. So I did not realize that I came this close to being sent away for a while. So Oh, how dare you? Got a birthday. All right, we'll sing in a minute. So hold on, my darlings. Give me a second. I got to mute for a minute. I'm back. I had to say, please turn off the crock pot because I made beef stew and homemade cornbread tonight for dinner. So Hercules is getting some, and I thought it's probably been in there cooking a good while. So anyway, my darlings, I came this close to going, and my grandparents stepped in and said, absolutely not, no way. And my mother, oh my goodness, my mother was like, oh my. So, okay, so that calmed down. Now, stay tuned because there is a rest of the story. But it was a few weeks later. We were in a hardware store that my aunt, my dad's sister, was working. And just a minute, I have to put this person down because she's tickling me. Goodbye. We were in a hardware store where my aunt was working. There was a woman who came up to me, and this hardware store wasn't any bigger than a minute. And it was one of these where you walked in and then you had to go down a few steps to get into the hardware. So when you walked in, you could almost see the whole store. And then the cash registers were in the back, and then you had to walk toward the front. So we walk in there. And of course, my mother always and hung on to my sister and I like there was just no tomorrow. And I mean, I understand now, hello, why she did that. But when we walked in there, they were busy talking. You know how it goes. And I managed to kind of skirt away. Well, there in the one aisle was a woman that was standing there in all black. She had a black hat on, and she looked gray. She looked gray. Her eyes were gray. She looked gray. Her lips were gray. I mean, she was just gray, a gray grandma. She was just gray. Her hair was white, but she looked like she had, I don't know. She comes up to me and bends over like this and looks at me. I'm thinking, oh, dear God in heaven. I'm little now. I'm like, what, 3 or 4? She turned over and looks down at me and she says, I know you. Hi, Zelda. You have the name of your grandmother. Well, now what happened? That B movie scream came right out again. And I'm not kidding. It rang through that store. And I mean, it was like an alarm to my mother because we had just been through this. And you could hear the footsteps running through the store, and they found me. And I'm just standing there like, I mean, I believe that my spirit left my body. And hello. So, oh, just a minute. Sammy, no, messing with the light. So I'm standing there. They grab me, take me up to the front, sit me near the cash register. I'd like to see them do that now. Sit me there on the counter by the cash register. Come here, sister. And what happens? I finally get to be able to talk, and they ask me what's going on. And this woman had a corsage. It was kind of a white, orchidy looking corsage. No, thank you. I hope I didn't get anything on me, dear jumpin' jollies. Did I? No. Can't be too careful about this. Anyway, so they're asking me to identify because people, the manager, my sister, not my sister, my aunt ran up to the, I'm looking to make sure I didn't have anything on me. She's like, hello, bless you, Sammy. Runs up to the door and locks it because whoever was in it, they wanted to make, it was just like muckmire mayhem and chaos that ensued. We go running, and do me a favor if you're coming in, just please do me a favor. Gesundheit, Krankheit. No. Yeah. Bump and subscribe because I love you. So chaos ensues. We go racing up, looking. Finally, they asked me, describe this woman. And I'm telling him what she looked like. And my dad's face went white. And he's looking at my aunt. And my aunt is looking at him. Now, my mother didn't know because, they'd only been married a few years, maybe 3 or 4 years. Seriously, I described my dad and his sister's aunt, who had been buried for like 10 years. And my aunt said she remembered exactly what she was wearing. Because back in the old days, when somebody was buried, you buried them in black. You wore black, no makeup, no nothing. It was a very somber thing. It's not like where you see now. I saw a picture of somebody, they had a funeral and the gentleman who had passed away was in a race car sitting in it. What? Anyway, so I had described their aunt who had passed away 10 years earlier. I wasn't even born yet. My mom and him my mom didn't even know the family yet. So on the way home, my dad was very quiet. And I could hear them talking. And I could hear my mom crying at night and saying, she's not going anywhere. Because my dad wanted to send me to, because he thought it would look bad on the family with all this stuff going on. He wanted to send me to a military school at 4. Hello. Wanted to, whatever, until my mother said, look, here, we're going to do the big D if you don't stop. Enough is enough. So it stopped, and he was scared of me. He didn't come around me that much. He was scared of me. And so later on, everything had calmed down again. And, they wanted pictures. Oh, my sister could be a turd. And she still had her bride doll. I did not. And they wanted to take pictures. And she brought out and they had us together. And she brought out her bride doll and was holding it like this right up near me. And I wish I could find that picture. I actually looked for it the other day. I wanted to show my son. You could see I was in complete horror standing there, having my picture taken with this doll. And from that moment on, everybody thought I was a little crazoid, but I would ask for horses, those little movable horses and everything else that you could get when you were little. Fire trucks. One of my favorite things was a fire truck. My grandparents for Christmas got me a barn. Hello, did I love that? It even had a little corn crib with these little ears of corn that you put in the corn. I played for hours and hours with my farm animals and all this other stuff. And, I had cat-like dolls, stuffed stuff, whatever. No dolls. No. My sister had them. She was not allowed to have them near me. So, yeah, things that don't talk or move. I had a Mr. Ed. Everybody remember what Mr. Ed? I had a Mr. Ed puppet. Now, that was cool because you could pull a string and it would go, I'm Mr. Ed. And what I would do is my mother gave me an old broom and I would put that head of that horse puppet on that broom and I would ride around the backyard for all day. I wish I could still do that. I probably would if I had a horse. You all could take a picture. I'd be riding out in the parking lot with my horse head on a broom. I could either fly off or ride the horse. Wouldn't that be funny? No ghost figures on the little, a horse, of course, Wilbur, right? So, it became very evident. And that's when they realized that there was more going on with Zelda than meets the eye. And that's because, my grandmother and grandpa had. And so when I would go to their house, we would talk about ghost stories and paranormal things in a way that it wouldn't scare me. So that way I kind of knew that there was more to this than just hello. So that's how I got. And then in later years, and you can believe my dad had an absolute herd of cows, that because, it seriously got to the point where I would be sitting in the living room watching Captain Kangaroo, and I would say, Mommy, you better answer the phone. And the phone would not be ringing until about 10 seconds later. And it would be my grandma. Or, I can remember one Sunday morning getting up early before church and playing downstairs. We had a 2-story house, playing downstairs. And I just knew there was impending doom coming. Somebody scratching over here. I just knew impending doom was coming. And I went upstairs and woke up my dad. And I said, my aunt, the same aunt. I said, Aunt Lynn, her daughter is in trouble. She's not here. She's in trouble. And he was so mad at me. And he said, what? Can you get down, please? Everybody. And they're like, what in the heck? It was not more than 10 minutes later. I went downstairs. I was in trouble. Hello. When wasn't I in trouble? I went downstairs. The phone is ringing. My dad came down, wall phone, came down, answered the phone. It was my aunt. He looked at me and dropped the phone. And he's like, oh my God. And he went upstairs. There's the phone dangling on the wall. Hello. Can everybody oh boy. Let's just knock things over. There's the wall, the receiver, flick, flick, flick on the wall. My sister goes over and goes, hello? And she could hear crying on the other end and going, hello, hello, where's your dad? My sister goes halfway up the steps and says, are you coming back down? Aunt so-and-so's on the phone. I hear my mom upstairs crying. Dad comes down and answers the phone. He said, I'm sorry. I've got stuff going on. Okay. hangs up the phone, comes over, grabs me, takes me upstairs and says, "Tell your mother what you told me." And I did. And she looked at my dad and said, "It's not her fault. It's not her fault." And he said, "This is the craziest thing I've ever heard." The reality is, that was my aunt. My cousin, who was her daughter, was 16 years old and was out with her friends. They were going up on Route 250 to Norwalk, Ohio. They weren't drinking, but they hit a tree head on. Everyone in the car was okay, but it broke my cousin's neck, and she passed away instantly. And that funeral was so horrible. I had never seen anything like that in my life. Nothing. So they were very careful at keeping me away, because, when you're in a young age like that, it's kind of like, okay, we've opened the door on Zelle. Let's just go. Woo. She was gorgeous. The only thing that I can remember her was over at their house when we went to visit. And she would sit in there and she would look, they had the vanity, old-fashioned vanity with a great big circle round mirror in front. Remember those, ladies? Big circle mirror and the vanity. And she was sitting there. She had raven black hair. Black. It was gorgeous, shiny. And she was sitting there, had a brush, and was just brushing. And I was in awe of her. I thought she was just gorgeous. And she could see me, and she would look in the mirror at me and smile. And that's the only thing that I remember of her. And then when this happened, it was horrific. As I grew up and grew older, there was more and more things like this happened. And then I, for a very long time, grew away from my dad and grew closer to my grandparents, but everything was fine. But my parents ultimately got divorced when I was 16. That was a happy day for me. But my grandmother, when I was probably about 13, 14, would go over to her house, and I would sneak into the drawer where the Gypsy Witch cards were. And I'd say, "Let's sit down." Now, we would play the card game. My sister and my grandparents and I would play this card game called euchre. I love playing euchre. Nobody remembers how to play euchre. If you play euchre, put it in the chat, because I love playing euchre. Euchre was the game. So we would play euchre all the time. And as I would play euchre, it would be almost that the playing cards would feel weird. I would just get like, and I would say, "Grandma," after the games were done, I would say, "Grandma, this is Shaggy Noodle. Euchre is EUCHERE. Yes, from Michigan. Yes. Hello. Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you. Euchre. I love euchre. It's kind of a regional game. It's like, Midwestern state. Oh, and it's so fun. You use the 9s, 9, 10, and the royals and ace. This is very fun. And you have trump cards. You have all this, is whatever. So anyway, yeah, it's a Midwestern game. It is. It's a lot of fun. A lot of Germans play it. A lot of, that's where I learned. So we would play this, and it was just so fun. But I started thinking, there's some things with the cards. So my grandmother started telling me a lot, and then in the summer, we would go spend a lot with my grandparents, and that's when everybody would come to her house. And these women boo-hooing, even back in the 1970s, were boo-hooing about, oh, this neighbor woman that just moved in is out with my husband, and he's working on the combine, and she brought him cookies, and are they going to have an affair? So life doesn't change, my darling, just your environment. So I would sit there and listen to all this. My grandmother was an excellent card reader, and my grandfather was a water witch. I don't like that name, but he would douse and found a good many of the wells in that area and a lot of places on that farm, on the farms. So there you go. And he found some on Malabar Farm when he worked for Louis Bromfield when he worked there. So there we are, my darlings. There's the story. There's the scary stories. And I will tell you, my darlings, this. There ain't no way that I have dolls. No, I don't do dolls. I don't go around them. I wanted to go to Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum or whatever it is in Vegas. He has the #1 attraction in Vegas. I wanted to go there because I know I'll meet him. And he has a doll room. I will pass that. In fact, the people I was supposed to go out there with said, when I didn't get to go because the big C hit in 2020, uh-oh, somebody's sick. Are you okay? Who's doing that? Was sick. And, sorry, what did I say? Was sick? Hello. Yeah, the big C happened. And I didn't get to go. I was grounded, but there were some people that were already out there and said when they passed the doll room, some of the dolls you could hear you could hear them audibly. Hello, get it out, Zelda. They would say, Zelda, where's Zelda? Oh, Zell stayed home. She ain't gone near the doll room. So there we are, my darlings. Ain't no dolls. I won't go see Robert. I won't go see Annabelle, especially. And that. What's going on? Just love talking with you and reading the comments. Okay. All right. So here we go, my darlings. I got some cemetery stories for you. Now, first one I'm going to tell you, remember how I talked about Malabar Farm? And I'm going to try not to watch your chats because I get distracted. So Malabar Farm is in Ohio in Richland County. It was the farm that I was telling you about that Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall got married on, and my grandparents were there. The owner, Louis Bromfield, was an ambulance driver during World War I. And when he came back, he married this wealthy woman, and they bought this farm. Now, with this farm went a lot of acreage, 3 or 4 farmhouses. That's where my grandparents stayed, in one of the houses when they were working for him. So anyway, that's where Shawshank Redemption was filmed, in what they called the Doris Duke Woods. That was when the first opening shot where Andy went in and caught his wife with his golf pro, I guess, or whomever it was. That's Doris Duke Woods in Lucas, Ohio. So down the road from there, now this was back, I mean, my mother and my grandmother were still living, still driving, still, so it had to be, and I wasn't married yet, so it had to be in the 1970s. Yes, yes. I can't watch Shawshank anymore. I cry because it makes me homesick. Not because of prison, hello, but the area, all the farms, when Red was riding the bus to meet Andy and to leave, all those farms that they passed, I know each and every one of them. So anyway, makes me homesick. So, my darlings, there is a cemetery that is called, well, I don't know what it's called, but it was Mary Jane's grave. And Louis Bromfield was an author. He actually wrote Ferdinand the Bull for Disney. He wrote The Rains Came. It was a movie that George Papard was in. There were many things. He was very, I mean, he was Hollywood. He was, he knew a lot. I mean, he knew a lot of people. So there was this, and he wrote about it in this book. It's The Farm and Malabar Farm is what he called this farm that he lived on. So this was in the books. Now, my grandparents knew all about Malabar, and they would take us there when we were kids. And as I grew up, then I went to work there and took care of their horse barn and some of their cows and so forth. And it was a state type of thing, that it was a state working farm is what it was. So anyway, my grandmother and my mother and I decided that because I think my sister was married, we decided that we wanted to go find Mary Jane's grave. So my grandmother and my mom packed a picnic, and I always laughed because I said, no matter where you go, these two women, I mean, they packed a picnic that would have choked a pig. There was so much food. So we knew where the lane was back to this cemetery. So the legend was that there was a woman who was odd, and she was there. She lived there, and come on, Sam, stop, please. So she lived there, and because she was odd, people started calling her a witch. They did not have any other reason. I guess she dressed odd. There were some other things. People, they can be really cruel. So when she passed away, this one young girl felt really, really bad because they buried her with her stone backwards. I don't know if you know this. Most generally, your grave, when you are buried, your grave faces east. All graves face east. If you ever get lost and you find a gravestone, and if it's facing east. That's how you know where you're going. And it's because all graves face Israel for God, right? That's just the way it is. So we went there, and they turned her gravestone around because that was the indicator that she was a witch. Is that fair? No. But they did it anyway. I mean, this is like late 1800s, early 1900s. So we finally found it. And I don't know, my family has always been weird. Sometimes we would go to the cemetery and have a picnic in the cemetery. Lay down your blanket, have a picnic in the cemetery. That used to be a tradition for years and years. Many families did that, and especially where I'm from. You would see on Sundays, like if there was a special, like a birthday or something like that, you would go and have your whatever. So we went there. Now, the gravestones looked like this, my friends, like this. None of these big, pretty ones, none of this, but they were pretty much broken. They were, let me see. And the lane, you see this right here. This is the lane that this is like the lane that went back there. Have a meal of food. So we went back there and had a meal of food, and we just put out the blanket on top of my grandmother's car. Now, I want you to know something. My grandmother was persnickety. She didn't want anything near her car. And this road back there was, she had this Park Avenue, hello, and she wasn't bigger than a minute, like 5'2", driving a big Park Avenue. She would have to sit on pillows, and she would say, well, we always said, if you ever get in an accident, you'll never come out of it because you're sitting on top of the wheel. But that's just the way it is. So we put this blanket out because we didn't want to sit on the ground, so we put it out on the hood of her car, or no, on the trunk of her car. She didn't like it, but we did it anyway, like we were going to scratch her car with a blanket. Thank you, Grandma. All right. So we're eating, and I'm looking around, and that graveyard was just weird. Now, little side topic. The kids in the evening would come back there, and they would overturn gravestones. They would vandalize. They would do this, and people would want to come back and see it. But there's one in every crowd, and they would come back, and they would do that, which was very sad. So you would see a lot of broken stones and broken trees and so forth. Okay. So legend has it that this girl who took up with Mary Jane, that was her name, felt bad for her, and she had a seedling of a pine tree, of an oak tree, and she buried it with where Mary Jane was buried after she passed away, shortly after, maybe a week or something. So this tree grew, and it grew, and it grew, and I'm not kidding, it grew with a heart in the bark of the tree, in the tree itself, not really the bark, but in the bark of the tree. So it looked like a heart. So we knew our task after we got done eating our bologna and cheese sandwiches with mayonnaise and our potato salad and baked beans, pickles, celery sticks, and carrot sticks. We knew our mission was to find this tree because there were trees all over the place. We found the tree. My mom found it. And my mom weirded out. I'm not kidding. Now, my mom was very sensitive. She was a young soul. She was just very emotional. And she was just wide-eyed many times. So we're seeing my mom standing, Grandma and I, seeing my mom standing in front of this tree. We were about from here to where this stone would be. So we're standing there thinking, what is going on? Because the stone was worn and chipped away and you couldn't really see it, but you knew that it was facing the opposite direction of east. So the opposite direction of east, my darlings, was, pardon me, I've got a hair in my eye. Always picking, Zelda, forevermore. Always picking. All right. So my mom, standing in front of this tree, hello, and just kind of staring, like the energy was overwhelming her. And I'm like, okay. And my grandma's like, I think we need to go up there and get her. I think so too. So we walked over and I'm like, Mom, what's going on? My mom is crying. Standing there, I am so sorry that you were treated this way, talking to this tree, talking to. And I said, Mom, I don't think that's a good idea. I think we just need to look. Let's look at other stones. Let's see who else is back here. Let's just look at some things. And then we'll, give me a second. This thing right here. I'm so sorry. Give me a second. I don't want to do it. It's rude. If I do it on camera, I'll be. Okay, so she was standing there crying, but it was weird. It would have weirded any of you out. And so I'm taking her by the hand. I said, come on, Mama, let's roll. And she's like, no, I think I want to stay here. I said, no, Mom, I think we need to go. Just then, this tree, and it kind of looked like this. This tree starts moving. No other trees. There were other trees around. No other tree starts moving. And my grandmother is back by the car. And she's like, and I'm like, Mom, come on, we're going. Oh, I think I need to stay. I said, you're not staying here any longer. It looks like it's about to storm. And she looks up and the sky was as blue as could be. And she looks at me like I'm daft. And I said, no, look at this tree. And she says, I know. She said, that's Mary Jane. And I said, well, then I think what we need to do is leave Mary Jane to it. Leave Mary Jane to the tree before somebody gets hurt. And just then, I'm not kidding, this big gust of wind comes rolling through. I mean, our hair was like, hello, blowing all over the place. And my grandmother, I mean, those were the days where you wore dresses. So my grandmother's trying to pull her dress down, a house dress and everything. And we're thinking, oh my God, what is going on? And the sky was blue. All of a sudden now, I said, come on, Mom. And I grabbed her hand and I guess I pulled her off balance and she almost fell. And I caught her. And just then you heard this scream that was unnatural, as in it did not sound like an animal. It was an unnatural scream. We looked at each other and Grandma's like, so my mom hears this and she's like, okay, it's time to go. So I'm walking with my mom. She's all but 5'3" or 4. I'm 5'10". Hello. So I'm trying to get her to hurry to the car. We get to the car and the rain and the lightning. And I mean, it was crazy. It was just treacherous coming down. I told Grandma, I said, I'm driving. She said, no. I said, you get in the back seat. I'm driving. We went through down this road and it was rutted. She didn't like it because I was going out there to beat the band. But I said, no, this is not a time. If there's a problem, I'll take care of it. But that's why you have insurance. We're going to make like a duck and get the flock out of here, Grandma. That's exactly what we're going to do. So believe me, I put the pedal to the metal and we got out of there. Bilbo, we got out of there. And I'm not kidding. It scared. That was one of the times. But see, I was late teens. That scared me. I didn't have a lot of experience. And that scared me. We got out toward the road, got to the road, and everything stopped. The rain stopped. We got down to the road, down to Malabar, and it hadn't rained. I mean, you looked up and Grandma's like, this is the weirdest thing. So we decided to park at the big house. The big house was the mansion that Louis Bromfield lived in. You can still take tours. You can see where Bogey and Bacall got married, all that good stuff. So we wanted to go and use the ladies' room, collect ourselves. There was a little restaurant down the way. It was the Malabar Inn. We decided to go there and have a little refreshment. We got back in the car and we decided to go drive past where my grandparents used to live. And then there's another house called Seeley Rose. Now, Seeley Rose was a young lady back, I think it was in the 1800s. Pardon me. Seeley Rose was a young lady who had some, how can I say it gingerly? She needed some mental health. She wasn't able to comprehend things, but she was a sweet girl, but she just was something. So that was Seeley Rose. They had this farm, and when they cut this road in to go to Malabar Farm, within feet, the road was right beside this house. So telling you about the old story before we get back to when Grandma, Mom, and I parked the car. So Seeley Rose was on the farm, and she met this young man who lived a few farms over. And she immediately, I think so, Boda Bob. She immediately, we're going to be nice, but she immediately fell in love with this boy. Well, this boy was nice to her. She was like 13, 14. She planned on getting married to him. She was planning their lives. He was 17, 18. He wanted to go to college. He was going to move off. And finally, he had to tell her, I just can't do this. I have other life plans. So his parents told Seeley Rose's parents what was going on in a very kind way, not anything mean. So her parents forbid her to go and meet up with this young man. Thank you. To go and meet up with this young man. It's very heartbreaking. So this young man thought he was safe. So she blamed her parents. Seeley Rose blamed her parents and basically said, I love him, and it's because of you I can't see him. Because he ended up telling her, well, your parents don't want us to see each other. blah, 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 all this other. And that was it, or so they thought. So they would make their own sour cream cheese. They lived on a farm. Cream cheese, cottage cheese, all these things. Sometimes they would sell it, sometimes not. Seeley Rose got a hold of some of the rat poison that they used. Back then it was harsh stuff that they used on the farm to keep the rats out of the grain. She got a hold of that and she started soaking it in the cottage cheese. She had a brother, a mother, and a father. The first one to go, I believe, was her brother. Then it was her mother. And then it was her father in a very short time. And she was there by herself. And she tried to find this young man, but by this time, he was just unavailable. I think he'd either moved off or something happened. I don't know what it was. So there was an investigation, and they just couldn't figure it out. They just couldn't see why this was happening. Didn't happen, just couldn't figure it out. So, hold on a minute. Thank you, Ashley. Okay. Thank you, my darling. That's very sweet. Big hugs to your little son, too. Love that. I love that. Thank you. So, yeah, talk about a bad cook. So she unalived her family. So this investigation went cold until this female reporter from a paper decided that I'm just going to try to figure things out. So she would go down there and she very gingerly, thank you, Ashley, darling. She very gingerly decided to try to make friends with her. And so she would go in there, she'd say, you know, it was kind of that, oh, hi, and bumping into her, different places at the store, whatever. So they became friendly. So then this reporter decided that she was going to start talking to her about a young man, fictitious young man. So they were in the barn, sitting on the hay, the straw, whatever. And this young reporter says, you know, there's this young man that I'm in love with, but my parents are keeping him from me, and I just don't know what to do. And they kept talking about it, and she said that she knew that Seeley was trying to warm up to her, but she wasn't really trusting. Finally, one day, Seeley says to the reporter, well, you know what? There's a way you can take care of that. And the reporter said, no. And she said, yeah, I can tell you that's how I unalived my parents and my brother. So the reporter kept her cool. She took down all of the details, and she went to the authorities. From there, the authorities picked up Seeley Rose, and she spent the rest of her life in an institution for the mentally insane because she was just not right. So the house went to the state, and when Louis Bromfield came back from World War I, and they bought this estate. This house was also included. Now, back to the future with me. So we went to, after we got done eating at the Malabar Inn with my grandma, and my mama, we decided to take a little walk. That's what you used to do in the old days. You go out to dinner, you go to lunchy or something like that, and you take a little walk to burn it off. Hello, that's what we did. I wish we did it now, but that's what we did then. So we'd taken a little walk, and we decided to walk down in front of Celie Rose's house. Now, the park rangers, because this was a state-owned park, would stay there, because the park ranger would stay on properties. They could not keep a park ranger staying in this house because it was so haunted. So we went walking past Celie Rose's house. Now, it was still furnished to a certain degree. The doors were open, windows were open, people would walk in and out. It wasn't, back then, you didn't have to worry about too much. There were park rangers around and other people, so, nobody would do too much of anything. We were walking down the street, and my grandmother looks up and she goes, "Oh, look there." And just then, one of the curtains that was hanging, this is blue, but one of the curtains that was hanging in the window, it looked like it would pull back like this. And then as soon as we looked, it went like that. My grandma said, "I wonder who's in there." I said, "I don't know. It looks empty to me. I don't think anybody's living in there." So we're walking around and we're talking about this stuff. And we found, it's just like we found some elderberries around elderberries close to the road, and we're looking at the elderberries and we're picking a few because you're in a state park, you're not supposed to pick, but we picked a few, had a couple of bites because they didn't spray down through there. And we turned around and looked, and there was somebody upstairs in the upper looking. And I said, "I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to find out who's up there." I take off. I go in the house. It was open. I open the front door. Hello, hello. I ground myself on the door frame. Nothing. I go up the stairs, and the stairs were like flipping well narrow and steep. Like, hello, how did you even get any furniture up there? I went right up there, right to that room, and it was completely empty. Nothing except these curtains hanging in the windows. So I went over to the window and I'm waving, and they're like freaked out. And I'm like, nobody here. Because they didn't have, remember, they did not build closets in these homes back then. You had a wardrobe, which was a big wooden box. So as I was coming down the steps, evidently, I don't know, and I walked out of the house, my mom and my grandmother were standing there, eyes wide, faces pale. And I'm like, "What happened?" An armoire, that's right. Like, "What happened?" And they said, "As soon as you turned and we saw you go out," because you could see, sometimes, pardon me, and they were close enough. As soon as I walked out and you could hear me coming down the steps, that curtain went to the side and there was a young girl's face, went up and looked out just like this and went right back like that. It scared my mom and grandma. It scared them. And I said, "Well, I'm not going back up there." I think whomever it was in there, didn't like the idea. And you can bet for a few days I did not eat cottage cheese. I love cottage cheese, one of my favorite. If you have a Kroger grocery store, Kroger brand has the best 2% small curd cottage cheese, I think, on the market, but that's neither here nor there. So they see this face, the curtain pulls back, the face comes up and looks, and the curtain goes back down. We left, and believe me, we were always very talkative, never had anything we couldn't talk about. It was a little silent on the way back that day because we had had two experiences. We had, oh, I love it, Standing Stones. We had Mary Jane's grave, and we had Celie's grave.
Until next time, thanks so much for listening. I just love this. Don't you?